Hello, everyone. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 2, No Quitting the Home Team. I'm Renee.
I'm Dave.
I'm Autumn.
Hello, I'm Jason. I'm present.
We have very, very cherished special guests today.
That's right. Autumn, how do people know you?
Maybe in a variety of ways, but if you're hearing my voice over the microphone, you would probably be hearing me say, hello, I'm Autumn, host of the Vision for Life podcast, which is an ongoing conversation between the pastors of Fellowship Denver and the church at large. Each week we talk about life, faith, the Bible, and how to follow Jesus as we go about our daily lives. And today, Vision for Life is joining No Quitting the Home Team, and we are doing what is called in the podcasting industry a crossover episode.
It's when, like in the Chicago franchise, when the Chicago Med doctors...
3 people know what you're talking about.
It's okay, it's okay. Beckett knows what I'm talking about. The Chicago Med doctors show up on Chicago Fire, and you're like, what? So that's what we are today. We're what?
Fantastic. Well, gardeners, welcome to No Quitting the Home Team, and it's fun to be on the Vision for Life podcast too. So yeah. I'm not sure what the graphics are going to be when this comes out that will identify what this show fits under.
Yeah, well, I think when it's released on No Quitting the Home Team, it'll probably be with your graphic. And then when it's released on Vision for Life, it'll be the normal VFL graphic. So people, we're really tricking our listeners into listening to the same episode twice.
Yes. Well, just to get the conversation started, we're going to follow kind of the No Quitting the Home Team format for today's conversation. And we always start with a basic question. How are you doing? And that question is open-ended. It is meant, though, to kind of get a sense of how marriage is going this week. Where are the pressure points? What's the good stuff? What's maybe some of the hard stuff? And so I'll just throw that question out. Guys, how are you doing?
Well, I'll start.
Great, Autumn.
Summer for us is really full. And so this week feels much the same. Just, I think in the theme of like, how are you doing? Jason's work is really busy in the summer. So
I know, Jason, your phone is lighting up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just acting very, very important over here. It's fine.
Are you a drug dealer?
I am a drug dealer of sorts.
Okay.
Yeah.
His work is really busy. In kids ministry, we have some big events during the summer. And so both of our work tends to just be really full during the summer months. And then kids' schedules are different during the summer, and all of our kids are spread out in age. We have 3 kids, and they're all spaced out in age. So they kind of each typically most weeks of the summer have their own like different schedules. So every week is different. There's a lot of work to do. And then I feel the like emotional wish that I could slow down and just kind of be with the kids. But in order to do that, it's really like robbing Peter to pay Paul. You know, it's always the back and forth to do that. So this week I'm feeling much the same as like most weeks during the summer. Our older kids are working at camp last week and then this week when we were recording. So I'm glad for that. I'm glad they're away doing something that's a good learning experience, and they love it, and they love being in the mountains for a couple of weeks. And so only our youngest is at home, which is fun. We miss them, but I know they're doing well and having fun. And having just Ivy, just our youngest, at home this week is sweet in many respects, but and so in some ways, I guess it feels like we're juggling fewer schedules this week, but it's still just the theme of the summer is that every week's kind of different. And so you're figuring it out every week. And
will that continue all the way up till school starts, or will you have like a down week?
You know, it'll just continue. Next week, though, we do have 1 week where we're kind of away with family.
Good.
But Jason owns his own business. And so every time you're away for a week, there is no paid time off. It's actually the reverse.
You probably have to work twice as much the week you get back, and you're like, why did I take last week off?
Or before, This week I'm trying to fit 2 weeks worth of work into one.
Yeah. So we have a fun week ahead that will be great. It'll be great to be away and to hang out with family. And But as far as just the like juggling things and the full schedules, it'll continue up until school starts.
Gosh.
I've heard you mention before, and we've talked about this, that for a lot of our schedules on staff, summer, it's not time off, but some of the intensity alleviates somewhat. Mm-hmm. Except for you.
And Michael probably.
Yeah.
You and Michael.
Yeah.
Kids ministry and student fellowship.
Yeah.
Just keep right on cooking.
So
You know what you should do? You should, if you go, like I was thinking about this when Michael took the kids to Mexico. I was like, he's working 24 hours a day, essentially. He should like keep track.
Hey,
and then
as a management team would like to step
and then
in.
meet out those in like time off, like paid time off later.
Oh, don't worry, Renee. I took one half of a comp day already, so it's totally fine.
You're good.
Yeah, so that's me. In all of that, though, I can stop and definitely account for so many things that to be grateful for. So it's not crushing, but it is tiring.
Yeah.
Really exhausting.
Yeah. Renee, how are you doing?
So I think we did something last week that we generally don't do, and we should do more. And I think it's buoyed us just in marriage. So I actually had surgery on my birthday, so we didn't really do much on my birthday in April. But Dave got me tickets, and we just tend to spend money on our kids and our kids' experiences, and often don't splurge for ourselves.
Right.
But because I was incapacitated and Dave didn't ask me, I probably would have told him, no, don't buy them. But he bought us tickets to Billy Joel in Denver, which was in April, and it was going to be in July. So, and then I couldn't cancel them and I couldn't resell them. So
I bought them. And
I
so
know. That's why I couldn't.
That wasn't an option.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I couldn't somehow like undo what had been done because I
Right.
didn't purchase them. So we went to Billy Joel last Friday night, and we biked downtown, which was super fun. And Billy Joel was incredible. Like to be 75 years old and sing like that still, I mean, almost sound better live than recorded. And obviously his piano skills are just incredible. The show was incredible. It was so fun. We biked home on the Cherry Creek Trail after midnight, and I thought we might lose our life to a few,
there was some tension.
heroin dealers.
There was some tension there.
Coming home.
Yeah.
But I feel like we just haven't done a splurge for us like that in a long time, and it was fantastic, and we should do it more.
Okay.
See, good
Noted.
job, Dave.
Noted. Yes.
And I would have said no, I think, if you would have asked me.
Right. But it was a gift.
It was a gift.
Yeah.
Yep. So
All
I
I
think
heard
we're
was don't spend money on your kids.
That's an astute observation. And you gotta spend your money where your heart is. And so maybe cut that.
yeah, that's so cheesy. Yeah, in the world.
I wanted to say, kids are maybe slightly overrated. That's what
better.
I'm trying to
That's
say. But
As I look at Jesse's guitar collection over there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Maybe it's like,
Sorry,
kids
kids, no
don't.
camp this week. Daddy
Right,
needs a new
Daddy
guitar.
needs a new guitar. So.
Only 4 of those are mine.
Do you want to give an update? How are you? How are you doing?
How am I doing? I am doing. I feel like I'm catching up still, even from our time away. For our staycation,
I thought you meant from being held back in first grade.
I am
Catching
still
up.
catching up
Still
there
working on
as
it.
well.
You'll make it, buddy.
Maybe next year. But I kind of feel like my schedule and stuff that we have to do, it's already going so quickly that to jump in on it, like you have to jump in on a dead sprint. And I just in
Stuff for the fall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I just am having a hard time doing that. So I just kind of come in, do what I have to do, but just to be on a dead sprint, I'm just not quite prepared for that yet. So I just am kind of managing right now. This is all work stuff. In terms of home stuff, I feel like I'm doing really doing great. Enjoying the summer.
You're killing it.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean,
Sounds like it. Billy Joel was great.
I know there is a high there. Hearing you say that, I'm not gonna lie. It's money well spent. But with Beckett and basketball stuff with him over the
Right.
summer is fun. We have the
Tournament.
final tournament of the summer is coming up this Saturday, and our team's looking pretty good.
Yeah, but they got their opponent, and it's like SoCal Elite. And I'm like, there's a team flying here from Southern California to play in this tournament. I think you guys are in trouble.
Yeah. No,
Dave's
our
out.
boys are ready for it.
Yeah, okay, we'll
They're ready
see.
for it. We'll see. We'll see. Hopefully we can score. We lost 50-2. No, hopefully we should be competitive. But I'm excited about that. And Will's in such a good place right now.
Yeah, he is.
Relaxing, and Ian's somewhere in Europe currently. So I don't know. I feel like with the kids, it's pretty good right now.
Good.
Yeah. Jason.
What? How am I?
Jason. Yeah. How are you doing? How's
I'm good.
life, marriage?
Yeah,
Things?
it's all good. I'm fine. Yeah.
All right. Great.
Done.
Moving on.
No, I am good. I am happy. I am generally satisfied and fulfilled. If not, kind of like Autumn echoed, a little rundown. It is my busiest time of year, and some really busy times for her. So in that, I have a little bit of sense of the scramble to get everything done kind of overtakes the experience of doing it, because I enjoy like my work and my marriage and our parenting and all that, but sometimes you're just doing it all to get it done.
Yeah.
But that is seasonal.
Yeah.
So
When is like the beginning and end of the busy season? Like what is there sort of a
depending on how, weather changes in Denver in early spring. So
Right.
middle of March
okay,
to
October?
October, November, again, weather
That's a long
dependent.
busy season.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. But yeah, the peak is, pretty much end of April through. Usually I'm quieter in July, but I've been slammed, so take it.
I'm going to insert a little parenthesis here for our listeners. So you just heard Jason talking. This is my husband, Jason. And we joke, I've been on staff now at Fellowship. We've been a part of Fellowship for a long time, but I've been on staff for 12 years. And almost every Sunday in our life, I come early and make sure all the kids' classrooms are set up and stay until through all the services and for a while after.
And I go to a different church.
So Jason is on solo parent duty on Sundays. And so a lot of our listeners go to Fellowship. Not everyone, but a lot of our listeners attend Fellowship. So if you've seen me on Sundays, you usually just see me kind of unattached from my family, like in physical presence,
I
even
think
though
most people prefer that.
even though they typically do come. So Jason and I joke that people either think I'm not married or don't know who my husband is. And then if they see Jason, he just comes in, with the kids. And often he and our kids sit in the service together. And sometimes I get to join, sometimes I don't. And so people think he's just this sweet single dad who always brings his children to church every Sunday.
Just trying to get the kids their dose of Jesus.
I have a similar reality, and often I'll be sitting in church, and during the welcome, someone who's sitting by me, I'm like, "Hey," and they're like, "How long have you been here?" And I'm like, "A while," and then
Right.
it comes out eventually. It's like, "Yeah, I'm Dave's wife," and they're like, "Oh, I wondered who you were." Like I didn't know if he was married or if like you went to another church, or it's like I just didn't know you existed. So I get that a lot too.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Nope, I'm here." Hiding.
Sometimes more literally than
Absolutely. Okay.
Oh, good.
Oh, good.
All right, guys. How about a little article talk? This season on No Quitting the Home Team, we are reading viral articles. Some articles are highbrow, some not so much. Some come from reputable sources, others from maybe more questionable sources, but all fun.
But it should be fun nonetheless.
Yeah, fun articles that hopefully will help to spark good conversation, not just for a podcast, but ultimately for couples at home in their conversations about how to improve and support their own marriage. So today's article,
And interestingly, today's article is describing what articles do in Dave and I's relationship.
yes,
So we have used articles to kind of solicit interactions. So like when I want like just to talk about something deep or talk about something silly, I'll send Dave an article and be like, ooh, tell me what you think about this, which is the process in which our discussion is talking about today.
yes, and based on how I respond
Yep.
to that forward of an article, I either do or don't do what they're talking about rightly. So here's the name of the article, and I'm sure we have it posted. So many of you already know what it is, but here it is. It's a CNBC article, CNBC.com article. Here's the number one thing that makes relationships successful, say psychologist who studied 40,000 couples. That's a long title for an article. It is written by really famous marriage researchers, John and Julie Gottesman. They are, of course, the famed originators of the Marriage Lab at the University of Washington. They've written a bazillion books on marriage. Some of these books we've read for previous episodes, and so many of our listeners probably are familiar with them or their work. And this article is a nice summary of maybe their foundational insight for 50 years of marriage research. So that's what we're talking about. This is the article.
So I want to say, I would love to hear everyone's, when you hear that, the one thing, the primary thing you can do to have a strong marriage, what immediately pops into your mind, even like before reading the article? I mean, we were kind of set up to know what they would say.
Right.
But still, I was just curious hearing the title, what would you think would be the number one correlation between most couples having a good marriage?
I don't know if I would think that this is true, but what pops into my mind is just time and investment spent, like some version of that.
Okay. What about you, Lev?
I think I've been so influenced by the Gottmans over the years and reading their stuff. I assumed, like when I saw that article, I assumed it was some version of Bids for Affection. Or, and they've used that language before. Like, famously, they're like, we can tell within 5 minutes if a couple is going to get divorced or not. And it's all based on this. Do you turn towards a bid for affection or away, or do you shut it down? And they mentioned that in this article, but they've been saying this for a long time.
Yeah.
And so when I saw it, which is why it caught my attention initially when I saw it on Apple News, I was like, okay, I bet you that's what it is. And I was curious if it wasn't that, what it would be. But yeah.
So do you want to give us a summary?
Okay, so here's the summary. The summary is, here's the number one thing that is a predictor of a healthy, long-lasting marriage. And they call it awareness on bids for affection. And it is a kind of communication, Renee. Like it is definitely, it is communicating, but it is not just talking. Every individual within a marital relationship wants to receive and give affection. How, though, does that happen in real life? And what they've observed through the Marriage Lab, and if you're not familiar with their Marriage Lab, they literally have an apartment in the University of Washington where they have couples stay over the weekend, and they
Like mice.
it's a lab.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Kind of. And they try to be as objective and scientific about it as possible. But they have thousands of couples who've done this, where they stay over the weekend and they study them. They have cameras and they have them hooked up to all kinds of things.
And they say, act natural.
Yeah, exactly.
And drink this pink Kool-Aid.
Right.
See what
It kind of
happens.
sounds creepy. But everyone knows kind of what's going on. But eventually they do capture authentic moments. And they observed after a while that couples have what these volleying episodes, and where they have a bid for affection, what they call bid for affection, which is basically like, hey, I read this article today and it's kind of interesting. And based on the response of their partner, and usually the response is one of three things. They either lean in and go, oh yeah, what was it? What was so interesting about? And so then it's sort of an opportunity to go back and forth, or they ignore it. So they just are like, oh, well, do you know what I had for lunch today? And so just kind of change the topic, and they don't pick up on that bid or that volley. So they let the volleyball drop. Or thirdly, they shoot it down. It's like, oh, that's a stupid article. Why do you read articles in the morning? Like, shouldn't we be doing something else? So they cut it out. It's a destroyed opportunity. And so the couples that have successful long-term marriages are ones that are able to eventually pick up on the various ways these bids for affection are manifest in the relationship. So it's not just articles, although personally, Renee, for you and me, it's kind of become that over the years.
Well, it's one of ours methods.
Even
yeah.
back when we got the Dallas Morning News, when we lived in Dallas when we were first married years ago, we would talk about articles, literal articles that we had read.
And a new one, I was thinking about this as I was reading the article. In the morning, before I get out of bed, I do the Wordle, I do the Mini, and I do the Apple Mini crossword. And then I do connections. And I try to do them fast, right? Like I want to do them really fast. And so a few months ago, Dave started like doing connections with me. And now if I do connections without you,
I think we're in trouble.
he's like, "Oh, you did it without me." But I thought it was interesting how like different types of bid for affections evolves.
Yes.
And like currently, that's definitely one that's sort of a litmus test of if we're connected.
Right.
Because
it's like, hey, you want to do this real quick? Or
yeah.
or if you're doing it. Or
If I'm already doing connections, he knows I'm mad at him.
Yeah. Well, and what's really insightful about, they just end the article this way, but they've explored it in other books, is that sometimes bids for affection have a negative shell to it, like the outer covering is negative. So it's like, instead of a, hey, I read this article, it's a huff or a, doing the dishes loudly. It has more heat to it. And the husband or the wife senses the negativity, and instead of seeing it as, no, this is actually a bid for attention, they see it as picking a fight, or hey, this feels dangerous to me, I'm gonna bolt. And so but really it's a lost opportunity for connecting. But you have to like navigate the initial like heat,
Prickle.
Prickliness to it, in which that bid for affection is sort of is masked. And that's been, I thought, really helpful. So a lot of bids for affection are just like, why is he just picking a fight, or why are you bringing this up now? And it's like, no, if you're able to work through that, it's actually, you want to be seen. It's everyone wants to be paid attention to in a marriage and not be ignored. And so, but these bids can look different ways.
Yeah, that's interesting because considering the three reactions to it, because it would be really easy to ignore or change the subject on a negative bid for affection if you weren't aware of that's what it
As a
was
category.
as a category. Whereas if you think of like a hey love, do you want to go get a drink with me? Like turning that down or changing the subject or ignoring it is an overt rejection, right?
Right.
But the negative bids for affection, I feel it's a little subtler, I think.
Well, and you have to have already kind of thought through when this happens. I have to like resist my knee-jerk reaction to be to meet the negativity with negativity.
Right.
To fight or to flight, you know,
Right.
or to actually to engage it and then return, maybe harsh words with kind words and like, okay, I kind of see what's happening here.
Yeah. What do bids for affection look like for you guys?
Similarly, well, to what you were just talking about, the kind of negative bid for affection, Jason actually responds in that way really well. But I don't think that in the scenarios that I can think of in our home, in our marriage, when I'm kind of frustrated or he cares about me and is attuned to that. I don't know that in my mind, though, it's a bid for affection. Like, I'm not saying I wish Jason would pay attention to me. I just am feeling off for some reason, whatever, pick a day and a reason for whatever reason. And he's really good at not engaging the flight response, but also not like picking a fight, just asking like, hey, what's going on? Being attuned to it and not letting me kind of stuff my emotions and just pass by it and deal with it, which on occasion we all,
Right.
there's that necessity too, to move past something quickly because of the reality of what you have to deal with in your day.
Yeah.
But in moments when he can, Jason's really good at just at leaning in and asking and kind of helping me, like not being put off by it and just helping talk through it and helping us get to the point where like, okay, this is maybe what's actually going on, or no, it's not at all about you.
Yeah.
It's just about this circumstance,
Yeah.
or yes, it is actually about you. This is frustrating me right now. But he's really good at that. I think similarly,
Well, it's a
it's a game.
Well, you got to figure out what you're working with. Are you dealing with the person or the problem that's happening?
Yeah.
Which it's not really a game. It's just what you're working on. Like,
Yeah.
she struggling because of other things, or is the thing that's happening actually the frustration?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I really, really appreciate good conversation just in general in life. And so similarly, we share a lot of like what we're reading or something we saw in the news or online, a lot of that. Like talking about what we're learning, what we're thinking about. Did you see that? And just having good conversation about it.
I spent so much time trying not to look dumb in front of my wife. It's effort.
Yeah, you're really underselling this here. I mean, what would you say? Do you have how does it look? Those are ways that we connect, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, articles and tidbits of stuff like that comes up. We share stuff all the time that way. I think this is like a thing I've read about this, like socially. People, if they constantly send you little like memes or videos or tidbits of this stuff, that's kind of what they're doing.
Yeah.
So we'll have it with real highbrow articles, which we read tons of.
On the respected
followed
BuzzFeed
up by
website.
followed up by
Exactly.
our deep conversation. It happens. But there's also the little things. Those are the ones that you got to try to pay a little closer attention to.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to like see the big one and be like, oh, let's have that conversation. Because that's interesting. But probably the one I think you do that maybe you don't notice, or you maybe do it on purpose, is trips to Home Depot without the kids. Is a clear one to me. It's like, oh, the kids are all busy. I need to go get one thing from Home Depot. Do you want to go? I'm like, well, I don't You don't need me to go get a power supply, but that's not what you're asking. So
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
good.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's very
How many
true.
years into marriage did it take to figure that out?
7.5.
7.5 years. Yeah. It's seems about right. Seems about right.
They call this what they're describing in the article turning toward.
Yeah.
I like that
Yeah.
language that they use in there. I don't like that they say the number one relationship hack is turning toward. I think hack is so misplaced when it comes to marriage or parenting
Yep.
that
Yep.
when I experience this in our home, it's born out of a true affection.
Totally.
And the repeated practice of caring for that person.
Yeah.
And then when you were describing, Dave, summarizing the article, the behaviors that go along with ignoring a bid for affection or turning away from it, I think that is like a form of self-preservation or self-centeredness maybe at work at times. And so putting effort into continually kind of noticing the other person, being attuned to them is, I think, much deeper than
Yeah.
a hack. I know what
agree
they're
with you.
saying.
A hack is like an easy way to get a good result. Like
Yeah.
a
It's a
hack
shortcut.
meal is like, I can buy these 3 ingredients from Trader Joe's.
Trader
and
Joe's, totally.
And it turns out okay. Like this isn't a hack. This is like hard won
Yeah.
with a lot of like patience and prayer. And
It's like major, like habitual level kind of ways of operating.
it's a discipline, not a hack. Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. What else would you say are your? I'm just curious. Like if we asked them, what are your bids for affection? What are your bids for affection, Dave? Other than what we talked about.
I would say, oh gosh, I didn't know you were going to ask me that.
You should have known.
I know. My bids for affection, other than what we've talked about, I mean, I do think a text, like how, like, hey, what's up? How you doing? Whatever.
Gosh, I stumped you.
You did, yeah. I haven't reflected on it beyond kind of the topics the specifics we've already mentioned. I don't know. What do you think? Like, I think some of it's unconscious, so it's
Yeah.
hard to
Yeah.
like.
It's probably easier to know what your spot. I think
Yeah.
If you say to me, and this is a bid for all types of affection, but you'll be like, "Hey, I'm going to grab a bottle of wine on the way home."
Yes.
And if it's like not, we're not having people over or whatever. Like I feel like
that's more of a signal. That's like a bat signal,
okay.
right?
It probably
It is a-
fits
it
in
is
there
a
somewhere.
perfection
It fits
thing.
in
Yeah.
there.
I mean,
Yeah.
It can be both.
Yeah.
It can be both.
What are mine?
It's definitely a version of affection.
But it also implies like, hey, let's hang out, let's watch a show, let's talk. Like it implies interacting that evening, because often evenings are like, hey, I got to work on this, or
Yep.
I've got to get this prep for the next day, or I'm going to bed early, or whatever.
Yep.
So it implies like my response is either accepting or rejecting the offer of time in the evening.
Yes. I mean, I would say with you, it's when you're on the couch and you like are reading a book, or like when you seem available.
That's my bid for affection for
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's
Like I'm just like I'm relaxed, so that means because I'm more of the doer,
right.
so I'm usually in motion.
Right. So when you're not,
Right. Then it's like, I'm open.
you're
I'm open for
up
relational business.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I better like you better strike while the iron's hot. With that.
Oh, that's so interesting. I'm glad I asked you that.
I guess that makes sense in terms of just like they're saying, be emotionally available.
Yes.
That's what this comes down to.
Yeah.
Even when it's inconvenient
Yep.
Yep.
for you,
Yep.
if your spouse is indicating that in some way they want you to pay attention or
Yep.
just wanting to engage, then you have to choose to be emotionally available.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is hard, which is different than being physically, because you may physically be there, but be constantly rejecting and emotionally withdrawn. And that doesn't work. But to be present and to be responsive
Yeah.
emotionally and present, then that's pretty good.
I think one thing you do that I think might be hard for some people I think you do very intentionally that helps with this is you always text me back from work. And
Which
even
we've had to learn.
we have, but I feel like that is huge for me. And if you're in a meeting where you can't, you do right afterwards.
try
And I
just
feel
to
like a lot of
customs.
like a lot of relationships that can't happen but doesn't happen. And I think that's a lot. It's inconvenient for you sometimes to interact with me during the day on various things. And sometimes we get in this, like if we're both tired, we just find the gifts of like the girl that's being dragged by the carousel. So it's like, how many silly gifts can we find of someone just like being so exhausted they can't keep their eyes open? But you'll text me those back, and I know you're busy when you're at work, and I'm sending them the like fat cat that's like falling asleep in the corner of the. But I think that's an example of this that you've done that has been really helpful for our relationship.
And it is fun. It is fun to do, but it does stay engaged. And it's
Yeah.
like, hey, we're kind of with each other, even though we're not physically
Yeah.
present.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Anything else, guys, about this article or the idea of bids for affection or turning in?
Well, they give a couple of like specific in the article, just a couple of specific suggestions, like how to put this into practice. And they say, like, do this 10-minute check-in, which struck me as something similar to what you guys have said on the podcast before. Like, they say, if in the morning, is there anything you need?
Yep.
From me today.
Yeah.
But I think this has become, Jason really doesn't love our calendar discussions. But
Calendars are stressful to me.
Well, it
they're-
feels like business. It's like, are we talking
they're
business?
really necessary to
But it
make
forces
our...
you to face the chaoticness of your life, doesn't it?
But they're really necessary to make our lives run.
Yeah.
And so I know Jason, I mean, we know that he's realized that, but now he will actively ask often just about that. Like in the evening, the night
I
before,
just don't want to get in trouble.
in the evening,
Fear is
the
a
night,
wonderful motivator.
the night before, or this isn't like him doing, this isn't a bid for affection, but it is something that he has done out of like care for me and our kids. And, so he'll just say, like, if he's noticed something about the next day, he'll actively just ask about it, which is so helpful.
Yeah.
So we have our regular calendar discussions where we go over like a month or two ahead or a week ahead. But then even for the next day, if he notices that something might be in flux or he'll need to cover something with the kids, he'll just ask and make sure he's aware of it and can adjust as needed. And that makes me feel really cared for. And like, he's an awesome partner in so many respects, but that just reiterates that it's a version of what they're talking about here.
Yeah.
Like take some time to connect, ask what your spouse needs. And so that's a way that I think you do that really well.
Yeah, it's a little bit of learned stuff, but like we clearly have different like values on planning,
Unpack that some, Jason.
which is fine. But the reality is, I learned that it's like much easier and better for me to kind of sacrifice my perspective on planning for hers, because actually everything does work better when I do that. And so this activity is part of that. So.
And it takes a little bit of the mental load. Like because I'm the schedule person in our family too. And there is a mental load of like knowing that you have to catch all of the potential missed schedules. And when he does that, there's a bit of like, oh, this mental load is shared. And that's so nice.
Yeah.
To not be like, oh, if I miss this, then like the whole day
It's going
is
off the
wrecked.
rails.
Totally. The whole day's wrecked.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And then the other thing they suggest, so like that's their 10-minute check-in. And then they have this one that says pick up the pennies, which is just like small moments, more of what we were already talking about. Like eye contact, a simple ask for help or attention, asking for a favor, saying good morning or good night. So they give all these simple illustrations.
It's like, how did they know that you left your pennies all over the house? It's the weirdest thing. Always
I throw away.
They've
I throw away
creepily studied
pennies. I throw
couples.
away pennies. What does that say about
this
me?
lady and her pennies.
Renee is not stopping to pick up
I
the pennies.
literally throw away pennies. What does this say about me, honey?
You know, you like a clean house.
But I think that one other just like an example of maybe one thing that we kind of practice, which maybe is one of these bids for affection, but is just a chance for in terms of just physical affection during the day, a hug, particularly when it is like a tough day or I feel tired and this maybe is one of your bids for affection, Jason, but I'm always like very willing to just engage it. So, and then sometimes I come
You
to
gotta
you
get that
just
20-second serotonin drop.
yeah, exactly. Jason always points that out. You know, one
know
fact
if
of
it's real.
psychology that he
I
read
don't
one
know.
time,
I don't know.
and
I don't know.
then he
Science
just likes
of a
to
hug.
quote it, the science of a hug.
Kind of takes the romance out of that. Like,
Probably saw it on that episode of Teen Titans Go.
Fine. I don't know that we're super high on the romance. Yeah, so that's another. It's like a simple, small action that can be repeated that you both just like willingly enter into. Take a moment.
Yep.
And so it's short but meaningful. That's what this made me think of. It's something,
could
some
even-
small action.
Totally. You could even kind of rebuff that too, even just in the action. Like if there's comes in for a side hug and you're kind of stiff and you kind of lean away.
Yeah.
Like that would be a way to like turn that down,
away. Yeah.
turn away.
Yeah.
Or you can like lean in, but it's super small and simple, but
Ooh, what if the turn away is its own bid?
It's the negative bit.
Then you're playing ping pong and it's going too fast.
That's right. Yeah. No,
It's not
you're
volleyball
playing
anymore.
Chess at
This
that
is-
point.
yeah.
Then I'm losing.
Dave, if this conversation is interesting and people want to read more about it, could you give some of the Gottsman's book recommendations
Yes.
if they didn't listen to last season's podcast?
Totally. There's a number out there, a number of his books out there. Probably the ones that immediately come to mind are something along the lines of the seven steps to a lasting relationship. It's seven's is in the title.
Is it the 7 days to more intimacy, connection, and joy? That one? No.
No, it's so it's one of his books that has 7 in it, but not the one that Autumn just mentioned. Don't buy that one; it's trash.
He
It
panned,
has 7 in the title.
he panned that one last year.
That's right. I did that.
You panned that book
one
last
is
year.
trash.
Yeah.
And so thanks for bringing
Okay,
that
so
up. Don't get that one.
Don't get that one.
And
We're happy to provide everyone with such clarity today.
yeah,
Read the good one, not the bad one.
yeah.
7
Thanks,
in the
Dave.
title, but not that 7.
But it's one we did recommend last year. It's
Sorry,
very
honey,
short.
I probably should have.
No, it's okay. It's very short.
There aren't like 7 brides.
No,
Are you thinking of the Love Prescription?
the Love Prescription. Yes.
Oh, the 7
that's
deadly
the
love
one.
prescriptions.
That's the one that I mentioned.
That's the, or was it the 7 principles for making marriage work?
That's it. The 7 principles
Okay.
for making marriage work.
Don't read the love prescription.
No, the Love Prescription is good too.
Oh, well, that's
Killing
the
me.
subtitle.
We pan.
The
We
7. It was the 7 days.
7 days.
Well, this one says,
That's
Dave, quote,
the-
the love prescription, :
7 days.
7 days to more intimacy, connection, and joy.
That's the one. That's the thumbs down
What
one.
you want is the 7 principles for making marriage work.
There you go.
That one's good.
Let's stop there. We've got to stop with the titles. We've just got to stop with the
Yeah.
gots. That we've
Honey, you
we've
started all this.
I know. We've identified
You were the one who was
rec-
unprepared. So.
I know. I didn't know the question was coming.
we have identified the recommended one.
Yes.
Let's leave it there.
All right. Enjoy.
Okay, next segment. This is certainly our spiciest segment of this season. And last week, our inaugural episode,
Wait, what's this name of the segment?
it's called Spousal Advice.
Okay.
And the idea behind this segment is that often, because we're so familiar with our spouse, we can say things and they just don't hear it. Both ways, right? You can say
Loss
things.
of bids for affection.
Yep, you can say things over and over and over again. But sometimes when you hear it from an outside source, you hear it like in a way that's different. So the idea is that each week we're going to take turns offering advice to all the opposite gender spouses out there. So I kicked it off with advice to all the husbands, not Dave, of course.
Not me.
Not Dave, but other husbands out there. And actually, it was interesting before starting the podcast today, we talked about the advice I offered. Dave actually did this week to sterling results.
Even though you weren't directing it to me.
I wasn't, but you, and I wasn't. It wasn't
How do you pick up on it? It's amazing.
No.
It wasn't
Kind of
a
a genius with this stuff.
It
I mean,
wasn't
I
a
guess.
particularly tense week for us, I wouldn't say. But even without the tension or the relational fracturing, you still just did the dishes a lot this week.
So what was the advice? In case-
Well, they'll have to listen to it because it's
Okay.
too long.
Okay,
It's too
great.
long.
So now is my response
So now, yeah, Dave is offering advice to wives out
to
there.
wives out there. Okay, but not to you, but just to the wives out there. Okay, so wives out there, here's some advice.
And we acknowledge this is a very passive aggressive section and that the direct application of this section in your life might be harmful.
Okay.
If you invoke this practice, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But we're doing it for
Having some fun.
So,
Having some
so
fun.
to clarify, not the doing of the suggestion isn't harmful.
No.
But you should not go about giving your own spouse advice in this manner. Is that right?
I think generally the idea that being passive aggressive in your relationship is probably
exactly.
not the best
That's
approach.
not the best approach.
But we're doing it for the sake of the podcast and for
We're
the
just
sake of
having some
humanity
fun.
and having
Yeah.
some fun. So
Okay, so
disclaimer.
But with that stated, okay, wives out there. I understand why you might assume that your husband knows what he ought to do when you're mad. I get it. Maybe you've been married for a long time and you have this expectation that whenever you're upset, this is what your husband ought to do, and these are the things that you like it that he does. And here's the advice though. In that scenario, your husband cannot read your mind. He can't. He can't read. He can't. Maybe he ought to, but he can't read your mind. So, so the advice is as maybe frustrating as it might be in the moment, simply tell him what you want. Verbally tell him what you want. Most husbands, we read a book about this a couple of years ago that didn't make the podcast. Most husbands want to please their wives. They really do. But they often don't know exactly what to do that. And so as frustrating as it might be to maybe spell out loud what you want your husband to do, it would be nice if he would just do it without having to say it. Most husbands probably need the more clear just request. This is what you need to do for me. So just tell your husband what you want. That's the advice to other people.
in this segment, do we have the right to rebuttal or
Nope.
should we not?
Nope.
No rebuttal.
Rebuttal is next week.
Since
Rebuttal.
it's husband
I think
advice
that turns into an argument at that point.
That's right.
since
which I thought
this
was
week
what
is
we
like
were avoiding.
husband advice to the wives, the faceless, nameless.
Yes,
in
yes,
this
yes.
scenario.
Yes.
Wives. Do you what do you think of this advice to wives?
advice to
Jason?
wives?
Yeah.
Put me on the spot.
Jesse can edit out dead space.
Yeah, right. I maybe agree with Dave about 70% of it.
Okay.
Maybe 50. Maybe my thought is give a go at reading their mind.
Take a
first.
stab at it.
Maybe give it a go. 'Cause
Yep.
maybe you get some A for effort points. Or maybe you do. Maybe you can read her mind.
Wow.
Right? You don't know until you
Maybe you're
genuinely
clairvoyant.
try it. So give it a
Lean
go.
into your clairvoyance.
Maybe this is just my sort of problem solving skills coming into place. I'm going to try the sort of the easy
sort of a
low
both
hanging
and, right.
fruit first. Like I'm going to try this, do that, and then see what works and what doesn't.
But leave it open ended. Don't think that you have the answer.
Yeah. Or ask, and I mean try a couple things, and then maybe ask. Maybe
Yeah, is there a
start
role?
off by, you know.
Is there a
stating-
role of like, I know you're frustrated. I don't know what you want me to do. Can you please tell me? Is there a role of you saying that?
Well, this is kind of what we were saying before. It's kind of like because the problem might not be that something is undone, right? The problem is often something else. So,
Right.
can we figure out what that is? Do you need a moment? Are you, just annoyed with something else? So figure it out. Ask. Maybe try some of the easy things first, and
Yeah. No.
And then go do the dishes.
Yeah.
And then the laundry.
hey,
And then the laundry.
for me, the
always-
dishes are always done first, anyway. So that's not even a thing that has to be done at the moment.
There you
So
go. There you go. You've
If
already
the dishes are
covered your-
already done, then you know that one. And
Then you've already.
that-
Then it's like, okay, now I'm gonna have to.
that's
ask
one
because-
factor that's taken out of the equation.
Yeah. Well
so,
done. Well done with that.
Yeah. So
No,
there-
I think, of course, you know your spouse, and if she's upset, or if then from the perspective of the husband, do the sort of things that would be useful and helpful and alleviate the load that she's feeling, and then ask. But from the perspective of giving advice now to wives out there,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think the corrective is, or the advice is,
Yeah.
and this isn't just from me. This is like just a bunch of marriage books. There is this assumption that we get into that husbands can read their wives' minds, and that just doesn't happen. Now, through experience, you can kind of anticipate, of course, but it's only, even if you're 90% right, which is, depending on what school you grew up in, that may be an A. It was a 93 for me growing up.
Same.
91, 92 still B. But you're still going to be wrong that 7%. And that wrong, sometimes in that 7% is something that could be really, really hard. So I think the advice then is, for wives, is don't underestimate how helpful it would be if you just were clear on explaining what you want. And most husbands actually want to please you, want to
Yep.
to do what you want, but they are confused.
Yeah. And then the dynamic interplay of those two things.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Like
Yeah.
if you are the wives are more clear with like, I'm frustrated, I need you to just do this, and the husband is making an effort to do what he knows often works.
Yes. Do
in
the
that
dishes,
situation,
do the
yeah.
laundry.
And the
Yeah.
dynamic interplay of both of those could be very powerful and
Yes.
and alleviate a lot of marital stress.
sometimes it's don't do the dishes. Let her do the dishes.
Right.
While you distract the kids.
Right. Right.
Because sometimes that's simply the case.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
sometimes the frustration is all the stuff that happened in the day prior
Yep.
that's loaded up, and she just needs to feel a sense of getting something done. So she can
Rage
do that.
wash.
And
Yeah.
rage
Rage
wash,
cleaning.
rage
Rage
clean,
cleaning.
whatever. But if you take it over, you got to be careful.
Yeah.
All right, that's good.
Don't take it over. But
the
sometimes
wives.
let her have the things
Yeah.
she's doing, but take over the other things.
Yeah.
So when the youngest is going, mom, 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 mom,
Theoretically.
put him on the swing set.
What? Hi.
This
Did
guy.
you see that
This can
cartoon?
happen.
Hi.
Fantastic. That's spouse advice. All right, finally, we have hot and cold. Guys, what are you hot on? What are you cold on right now? Autumn, I know we were talking about something earlier. I can see it in your eyes. You're cold on something right now. I can feel it.
I'm out. I'm cold on the flags and yard signs that are indicative of a certain like ideological tribe on either side. I'm out on that.
You're out. You're
Cold on it.
What about like college flags or like American flag or just like
College
Yeah, do you hate
flags
America,
should
Autumn?
stay in colleges.
or like rainbow flags for pride? Like, do those fall in the like yard sign kind of category?
So I suppose there's a sticky point in here in that the hot or cold is
Right.
always not very nuanced, right?
Right.
So in general, out on something that is motivated by saying I need to let everyone else know what I think about this thing.
Yeah.
And so I have to post it publicly somewhere.
And do you feel like it's consistent with even like social media posting? Because I feel like that's a thing too, where people have to be like, I think this.
Yes, and
As
attach themselves to a
Yep.
certain perspective
Yep.
to indicate that they are on the right side of whatever issue it is,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is typically, I think, it's a version of virtue signaling.
Yeah.
The whole flag or yard sign.
Yeah.
So there's some nuance. I think things like you mentioned, like college flags.
Yeah.
So if you're flying the flag of your alma mater or a college you want to support or where your child's going to college
Yeah.
or whatever, there's a sort of institutional attachment there that I can appreciate. That is like, I'm, at a soulful level, I love this institution.
Yeah.
I'm attached to them for some reason. And I think that's a little different than virtue signaling.
Yeah.
If you're flying a Texas A&M flag because you think you're morally superior to people, then I suppose it falls into the same category.
Yeah, then you're out on that.
Yeah, then I'm out on that. I'm out on that. If you are flying an American flag not because of genuine patriotism and out of a desire of good for our country, but you want to say I'm conservative and that's what conservatives do.
Yeah.
Then, I can't tell that. I can't assess that,
yeah.
nor am I trying to. Just then I would say that, I would be out on that perspective
Yeah,
that leads to this sort of like, I'm going to fly this flag
Yeah.
because I'm attaching myself to this particular ideology.
Yep. What about school signs, like the neighborhood elementary school?
I feel like you have a personal stake in this question.
No, she's hot on that. Everyone likes that.
Are we cold on those too?
Similarly, I think you're
Yeah,
attached to an
affiliation,
institution. You
yeah.
want to promote that institution. Your child goes there. You're probably hoping for the good of
Yeah.
whatever school that is.
Yep.
I think that's a little different.
Yeah.
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 All right, good. Anyone else? Something you're cold on or hot on?
Yeah. Jason, you said you had a hot on. You're warm on, like.
What am I? Oh, what? Yeah, what am I into right now?
Yeah, what are you into?
In
Yeah.
on.
Yeah,
You're in on.
I'm in on IRL. You know what it is, Dave?
It's like
are
the-
you with
I
the-
had-
are
It's like
you
the-
hip with
I'm
the
not kidding.
kids?
I had to look that up
you-
last week. So yes, in real life.
In real life.
Yeah.
I'm just done with the internet, so I'm all for everything in person
Just embodied
as
interaction.
much as possible.
Yeah.
I think psychologists
I'm
and
not a-
sociologists would agree with you.
I'm not
that-
I'm not a social person. She'll attest, but like,
Wait, what do you mean you're not a social person?
I mean, I don't seek social stuff. but
You and
what-
Jason are somewhat similar in this way, Renee. Like he just has a certain social battery.
Yeah, yeah.
He's
Is that
willing
what
to
it is?
hang
Yeah,
out with
battery. Yeah,
people.
yeah. Yep,
He values really good relationships.
yep.
But his
It's draining.
battery can be
draining.
drained by a lot of socializing, like
Yep.
in one week.
But just trying to get a social battery like use out of the internet is impossible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Not doing that. So,
Yep.
but we try.
Right,
And so
right.
much of it. So,
Right.
yeah, I'm just, and a lot of what I do is by myself. So my work is by myself. I ride bikes. Bike riding ends up being by myself, which is great and to a point. But I also love it when I can do those things with other people. So occasionally I'll have a customer who's just like coming by to pick up or drop off, and they get a little bit of the unload of my inability to chat with anybody else for the whole day.
They're like, thanks for,
Like, oh,
I
boy,
really
I
gotta
gotta
go.
Jason's
So-
like, you're the first real conversation
I
I've had
haven't
today.
talked to a person all day. So, but anyway, that's better than the internet. So
Yeah.
but just trying to,
Yeah, embrace that.
embrace it, just experience my relationships like in person.
Yeah. So next time people see Jason out in public, just give him a hug. That's what
Or just invite him to do something
I mean,
that
Jesse
day.
gave me a solid snuggle when I
That is
walked in
true.
today.
That is
Yeah.
true. That is true.
So
Awesome. Renee, anything for you?
That I'm hot or cold on. I'm super hot on the upcoming Olympics.
Oh, man.
We just love it at our house, and we get into everything. Like we get into things we would never be into, like beach volleyball, but
I can't wait for breakdancing. How are they going to judge it as an Olympic
is it a thing?
sport?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
a new Olympic sport.
And is it skateboarding too? Did I see that?
Yeah,
skateboarding.
skateboarding. Yep. But I think there's a patriotism. You know, all of that has gotten so strange in the last decade, and it just feels like a pure remaining space where you're just excited to cheer for people from your country and in honest competition. You know, I don't know. It feels like a purer space than we have almost anywhere else,
Yeah.
and it's a good chunk of it's 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. So it just gives like a rhythm to your evenings, and you get it in. You know, the media does such a good job now of like delving into the personal stories, which I love. So you kind of get to know these people, and I don't know, I'm just super hot on it. I think the kids are super excited about it, and we're gonna be in the mountains for the end of it. So we're super excited. We're gonna make like ethnic food related to who we're cheering for, and yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm hot on it.
Yeah. it's
Hot on
gonna
the
be fun.
Olympics.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
I'm hot
That's
on
a
the
good one.
like watching people swim in the Seine River and not die of
we'll see.
contamination.
We'll see. Yeah,
we'll see how that goes.
Jory's out on that.
Yeah,
They were like, is the Seine going to be ready for the Olympics? And I was like, how do you manage that in a few weeks?
Clean the Sen challenge.
yeah, impossible. Right. I have a couple. I love track and field, and I run track, so I have a couple like people we love and are like
Who we
followed all year and or for years. So yeah, that's what I'm hot on. What about you? A quick one.
Okay, I am hot on organizing my books right now.
Yeah, you are.
So over staycation, I built a giant bookshelf.
And if you guys have ever been to our
Floor to
house,
Oh,
ceiling.
Dave has so many books.
if you've ever been to our house, no, we have strange bookshelves built everywhere. We have a tiny house, and every nook and cranny has a bookshelf built into it.
So, but I've needed to build, we need more space. And so over staycation, I built a bookshelf.
In lieu of just not buying any more books.
No, I didn't say that.
No, I'm saying
Yeah, clearly. The bookshelf is the option.
that's the only option of building more bookshelves. There's not an option of just not buying any more books.
Right. No, right. Exactly. So anyway, so now that I've built it, and now there's a whole, I can just reorganize and thematically organize the books in a way that's satisfying to me. Just kind of, I find myself, and I think you've seen me a couple times, just sort of
Just a few.
just looking at oh yeah, there's these books and that books. Anyway, I'm kind of hot on that right now. There are sometimes I'm cold on it. I get a little, it's kind of maddening, and it's like,
All those books, it's so overwhelming. This is such a humble brag, Dave. I'm doing the same thing with my stock portfolio. There's so much.
How do I organize
How do
it?
I make the most effective use of all of it? That's what I'm super hot on
Yeah,
myself.
same thing.
I'm happy.
Thank you.
I hope you have many more bookshelves in your life.
I appreciate it. But that was a ton of fun, and I'm in on that right now.
All right.
All right, everyone. Thanks for this crossover event. Thanks, gardeners, for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, it was fun. Come back.
Most fun I've had today.
I always end the Vision for Life with an invitation to email us. So I don't know if you
Yeah, we
guys
do the
have
same
that
thing.
Yeah, we do. But
set up, but if you have enjoyed this episode, we would actually really like to know. It was
Absolutely.
a fun attempt at doing something a little bit different for both of our podcast platforms, and so we'd love to hear from you. If you want to get a hold of Dave and Renee to respond about the podcast, how would a person do that?
Dave at fellowshipdenver.org.
Renee at fellowshipdenver.org.
And if you want to email us anything about Vision for Life, you can send all of that, suggestions, questions, article suggestions, to podcast@fellowshipdenver.org.
Jason, what if they want to get a hold of you?
I was never here.
Hey, real quick, too, we're inviting people to read the article prior to our next episode. So do you want to throw out the teaser for the next article, or maybe no?
Hang on. Yes.
I've just really thrown stuff at you today, honey. I'm really sorry.
I know. And it's going to be, oh, good grief. Oh, yeah. Are married people truly happier?
Great.
That's the next one.
Where can the article be found?
The Atlantic. And now that I'm looking at it, it says why married people are happier.
Oh,
And it's written by someone.
okay.
And it's in the Atlantic.
Why married people are happier in the Atlantic,
Yes.
not Ocean magazine.
The link will be in the description.
The link
Oh,
will
good.
be in the show notes description. All right.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.